Welcome back to the Casual Critics. This is our third episode. Mom, welcome back.
Hey there.
You to everyone. Hey, thank you to everyone that has tuned in to YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, whatever, the past two episodes. We really appreciate it. We appreciate the feedback we've been getting. Casual Critics is a podcast hosted by myself and my mom, Rebecca Baker, where we talk about all things and all topics with a flair of common sense. And yeah, today we're going to be talking about, we're going to do a quick Stagecoach recap because we got requested by a couple people that we didn't do that last time, so we need to do it this time. We're going to talk about our trip to Boston and New York, Memorial Day weekend, and a bunch of other things. Mom, do you have anything to add?
No, I think you've got it. So we're excited to do our third episode, and let's roll. You want to talk about Stagecoach first?
Yes. So we realized we forgot to do this after we finished last episode. So we promised Stagecoach recap. So it's going to be short and sweet. But I have some of my merch here that I got from Stagecoach. It was great. I had a lot of fun. But here's my t-shirt that I got. Overpriced concert t-shirt. And has the lineup on the back. But it was very, very fun. The headliners were Eric Church, Miranda Lambert, Morgan Wallen. Morgan Wallen was definitely the best. Eric Church was, Mom, did I tell you about this? That he did like his whole set with like a gospel choir?
Yeah, you said it was very odd.
It was, I've heard great things about his concerts, but it was so odd. And yeah. I liked it because it was like supposed to be like a church feel, right? Like Eric Church.
Yeah.
But it was a 90-minute set, and he did that the whole time. He was sitting the whole time. He didn't talk to the audience. He didn't play some of his big songs like Drink in My Hand.
Yeah, that's what people want to hear.
Right, especially if you're headlining.
Yeah.
You have to play to the audience. Like, and it's a hour and a half set. It's kind of a short set. Like, you can't play all your new stuff and random stuff.
Right.
He didn't play Talladega, which was like his big song. He played Springsteen, but only for like a second. And I'm like, the church thing would have been cool for an opener. Like, I liked that for like a 20-minute opener, but like people were leaving. You can see videos on TikTok too of people flooding out.
No.
So I would see him again, but I'm sure that he learned from that.
So that's kind of reminds me in a way of when we saw, Paul McCartney do the Super Bowl a couple years back. We were like, oh gosh, he's so awesome. You forget how great he is, and let's go see him next time he's in Dallas. And of course, then he came to Dallas, and we booked the tickets, and we went. And then he sang all these new folk songs that he had come up with, and he sat there and played his lonely guitar and pulled up his pants like an old man every once in a while. And I'm like, oh my gosh, play some of your old stuff. That's what we came for, and mix in a couple new things. It's fine, but you don't want to hear like all this new stuff that you can't sing along to.
No, and I'm like, people don't want to see that. People want to see all your hits. That's why Bruno Mars does so well when we see Bruno Mars.
Yes.
He sings all of his hits. He might throw in a new song every once in a while. Pitbull does the same thing. Sings all of his hits, might throw in one or two new things, but you can't sing a whole new album. But Morgan Wallen was definitely the highlight. He was fantastic.
Now tell me,
we were a little worried.
Did you see a shirt with Morgan Wallen's mugshot on it? Because I know we talked about that last time.
I saw, I think, 70 shirts with Morgan Wallen's mugshot on it. It was like every other person had a shirt with Morgan Wallen's mugshot on it. One of the two, either one, the smiling one or the drunk one. But no, he was great, and Post Malone was great too. He had on that Dallas hat that I have that's upside down.
Yeah.
The whole time, because he's from Dallas and he loves Cowboys and stuff. But he played a whole set of country covers, and one girl I was with was like not into country music really, and she goes, oh, is he not gonna sing like any of his stuff? And we're like, no, like he's gonna sing some George Strait covers. That's what he came to do.
Fun fact about Post Malone is he's not only just from Dallas, but he's also I think he was born or raised when he was young in Syracuse.
Yeah.
So he's a huge Hoffman hot dog fan.
So funny.
Yeah.
So funny. But yeah, he went to like Grapevine High School, maybe?
He did.
Something like that. But
he was great. He had me send him hot dogs more than once.
I remember.
Yeah, more than once.
That
to his Utah
That was so cool.
Yeah.
All my friends thought that was so cool.
Yeah.
But he came out with Morgan Wallen too, and they sang a new song that they were like putting out together that wasn't out yet. that was so good. And it was called I Had Some Help. And it didn't come out till May 10th, but they sang it at Stagecoach, and it was great. That was definitely the highlight. I thought Hardy was great. Jelly Roll, surprise! Like, I'm not a huge Jelly Roll fan, but his set was awesome. And he came out a couple times. He came out during Diplo's late night set, which was fun, and during Hardy, who was surprisingly good too. Yeah, they were all. I had a good time. I wasn't a huge fan of Miranda Lambert. I thought her set was kind of boring. But overall, that festival's always fun. It was a little overcrowded this time. So Fallon, of course, and I decided that next time we go, we're going to do VIP. It's only like a couple $100 more, and you get all your own lines, and don't have to be in the general mass. But it was very fun.
That sounds like it'd be worth it.
Oh, I know. Well, by the end, you're like already paying so much money to be there. You're like an extra couple $100 for your own bathrooms, own wines, for food. Closer to the artist, totally worth it. Maybe meet some Bachelor people.
I get it.
It was fun.
Okay, so so that's good. I actually heard, and I don't know a lot about Jelly Roll, but I actually did hear that was one of the highlights of the festival.
Yeah, he came out a lot, and he was great. He truly was great. Even like when he came out during like the other people's sets, he was awesome. I was not a fan really before, but I'm more of a fan now, for sure.
Cool. Well, let's move on and talk about a little bit about our trip, because we just got back from Boston and also Syracuse. So that obviously ties in a little bit to Post Malone, because like I said, he grew up in that area. And so we went to Boston first. And tell us a little bit about what we did in Boston.
Well, I loved Boston. I had never been to Boston, but I've been told several times by a lot of people that I would love it there. So, a couple of my really good friends live there. My friend Rachel, who I worked with last year at Reagan, and my old roommate Joelle. So it was fun. We didn't get to see Rachel because she's going out to Hawaii for an internship, which is so fun. But we got to see Joelle, and it was so fun. Great. I haven't seen her since August, so it was very nice to see her and hang out with her a couple times. And she loves Boston, so she was happy to show us around a little bit.
So Boston is one of my favorite cities. We are city people anyway. I feel like we're very, our family is very adaptable. Like, we can go hiking and do something really outdoorsy, whitewater rafting, whatever, and we can also tromp around in a city like New York, Chicago, Boston, and be pretty happy doing anything. We have our Boston shirts on that we got. These were our Wicked Smart Boston shirts.
Oh my God.
I love the Boston people. They're very sassy and friendly, and definitely no fluff.
No. And we, like, the first night we were there, we were pretty tired from traveling, but we went and just grabbed drinks and dinner at the bar at some restaurant. We like picked one of the random restaurants that my mom had like found on Yelp or something, and our bartender was great. He was so funny, so Boston.
Abe and Louise. And the bar was amazing.
In Back Bay, I think that was the neighborhood we were in.
Yes.
Yeah. Right by Northeastern, kind of. It was very fun.
Yeah, great cocktails, great bartender, super friendly, and you saw, I guess, some regulars at the bar sitting there. So it was very Boston pub-ish, but in a good way.
Well, Becky and I are also both big Cosmo people. I like a stronger Cosmo than she does, but we're both Cosmo people, and we ordered Grey Goose Cosmos like we always do. And the guy goes, "I make the best Cosmos ever. Like I take pride in those." And we're like, "All right, well, we're judgy about Cosmos, so," and they're really good.
They ranked up there, I have to say. I don't know if they were the best, but they were pretty damn good. So
I think Martin's still beats them.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, Martin's. For those who don't know, Martin's is in Georgetown, and right around the corner from your old place.
I have a special place in my heart for Martin's. It's my favorite restaurant ever.
Yeah, mine too. So that was all good, but you were visiting Northeastern University, and then we went on to Syracuse after that. Northeastern was different. It was a very urban environment, and Very odd.
I don't think it's for me, but yes, I don't think it's for me. But I could see how some people would really like it there.
Yeah. It gave me kind of a King's College kind of feel when we went to look at King's College in New York City, where you come out of there, like you're viewing it and you're like trying to wrap your head around it because it's so different. And then you walk out and you're like, I can see how people like it, certain people, but it's not for me. It's not my cup of tea.
It totally was not for me. And like you said, Mom, I don't think they would like me there, which
I actually said that to her, which is really sick.
Yeah. I'm not everybody's cup of tea. Like neither is my mom. But yeah, no, I don't think they would like me there. People tend to sense the Republican on me and start arguing with me. I don't know why that is, but people at USC used to do that too. But yeah, no, I'm gonna bring up the merch thing, Mom.
Yeah,
it was odd.
That was very strange.
That was odd.
Yeah.
So they have like their law school merch is sold through this like little like window that looks like a takeout window in the law school.
It's like a closet. It's a janitor's closet.
Yeah, it's like a closet. And they go, oh yeah, you can't buy the law school merch at the bookstore. You have to buy it from this like little window. And they said it's like the Cooperative Income Student Association. And I'm like, first of all, I don't believe cooperative income. I don't know what that means, but that sounds like something that's looking more towards the side of politics that I don't agree with. But,
definitely.
Yeah, no, the girl that showed us around was so nice.
Very nice.
But I just don't think that one was for me, which was good because I needed to cross something off my list because we're getting to the point like we did in 2018 where it's like, okay, I need to pick in like 2 days.
Yeah, I agree. And yeah, the girl was very nice. And it was funny for those of the people who know she's applying to law school. But we got out of there.
Yes.
We got out of there and Presley said, what did you think? And I was like, well, what did you think? And I didn't want to influence her in any way in her decision. And she said, I didn't like it. And I said, they would hate you there.
They would hate me. They wouldn't get me at all.
They would be challenging you on every single comment, sentence, whatever that you made. So
well, also they don't give out grades.
No,
they give out grades, but they're not like letter grades and they don't rank. And I'm a very competitive person. I need grades.
Yes,
I need grades.
Yes, so you don't want to be judged on smiles.
No. And I know what would happen is that they give you like holistic grades, which are basically A, B, C, D, and F, except they're like, oh, you passed this with honors, or you just passed this class, or you passed it mildly.
Right.
And I'm like, just give out letter grades. I know what would happen is that they would not give me the high one, and then I would go argue with the professor and be like, what the hell does this even mean?
You're right. It definitely wasn't.
It's just not for me.
No. So then we went on to Syracuse, New York, where my business is. So some of you know this, but I owned a hot dog company called Hoffman Sausage Company for the last 12 years. And I'm the chief marketing officer of that company. And it sold. It was acquired in February. So I'm no longer an owner, but I still work there. So the company is there. I'm very familiar with Syracuse. I love Syracuse. There are things about it. Obviously, the winters are very harsh and very long, but there's so many great things about Syracuse. The people there are amazing. The food is good. The summers are beautiful, and festivals everywhere, even into the fall. And people really embrace all the different events there. So it's a lot of fun. So Presley got to check out Syracuse University Law. Which I was very impressed. I'd never been over there to that part of the campus.
Yeah. No, I really I surprisingly liked it. Like I was expecting to be like, okay, yeah, it's another school I've toured, but I really liked it. They have a really impressive facility and it's really new. But yeah, no, I'd never been to Syracuse, so I liked the area, and they have a really good program for me because I'm looking at maybe doing national security law. So that's definitely a factor, a consideration. But
and we found a cute apartment just in case.
We did find a cute apartment, which was great. I really liked it. A lot of character, good building. nice new renovations. All the interiors blue and white and gray, which is perfect because my apartment's blue, white, and gray. I'm not giving a tour today.
I
Like
was
I said,
a little,
it's a little crazy.
I was a little surprised that the rent was not that different than Georgetown and then Washington D.C. where you are now in Navy Yard.
But I think it's more so not because of the scarcity of new apartments like that there versus like here. There's a lot of new apartments, but everything's pricey.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's still going to be way cheaper for me to park and live there if that's where I go.
Oh, for sure. The cost of living is definitely lower there.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody's struggling with the cost of living right now anyway, across the board. I know I read something. I actually brought it with me because I was kind of surprised at this, but that like we were talking about fast food the other day, and this popped up that medium fries at a fast food restaurant used to be in 2019 were $1.79, and they're now $4.79, which is insane for French fries. And then like a Subway footlong BLT was $5.50 just a couple years ago, and it's $8.49 now. And a Chipotle.
Okay, that one shocked me the most because you remember all the commercials that's like $5 foot
right. They can't run those
they can't
anymore.
do that anymore. No, because they're $8 now.
Yeah, and the Chipotle burrito too. The burrito that was $6.50 is now $10.70.
Which already, like, if you're eating Chipotle, like, you really don't want to be eating Chipotle, but it's like right there. Like, so
it's everywhere. It's everywhere.
Yeah. And I read something on Twitter one time. I love Twitter. I'm a big fan of Twitter. I know not everybody likes it. I love it. But somebody said Chipotle is either the worst meal you've ever had in your entire life or the best thing ever, and there's no in between.
That's fair. That's fair. And the commercials make it look totally amazing, of course. Oh, and then like 9 times out of 10 you go in there expecting that and you're so disappointed.
Well, I've also seen people on TikTok, like, while they're making their bowl, they're, like, videoing the person making their bowl, and they only give them, like, a half scoop of rice and, like, a little bit of chicken. They just walk out.
I'm not a big fast food person anyway.
I find hilarious.
Which is funny because my parents love fast food. Like, they're in their 80s, and they'll go to McDonald's a couple days a week. They can afford anything, by the way, but they choose to go through the McDonald's drive-through and get some breakfast, or this one kills me.
Hey, I could be a billionaire and I would still eat a McMuffin.
No, I get it. And McDonald's breakfast is exceptional compared to some of the fast food places. But then they go through to Wendy's and they get chili, and I'm like, no.
Or grandma's like, the fish fillet. I got a fish fillet for lunch.
No, the worst is when the McRib.
You're ordering fish?
When the McRib comes back, and I'm like, oh God.
Wait, she always knows.
I know. She knows it's coming. She plans when it comes to go get it. And then she doesn't get one. She might get two.
Gross.
Gotta love Kathy. Love Kathy.
Oh, my God. She's the only one that orders it. They only bring it back for her.
I believe it. Hey, she's in her 80s. She's doing something right.
I'm going to eat whatever the hell I want in my 80s.
And there you go.
If I make it to that point, then I can have whatever I want.
If it was that bad for her, she wouldn't be still around, right?
Well, right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So
do we want to get into Memorial Day weekend?
Yeah, let's do that. So everybody knows, it was Memorial Day weekend, and it's not just a time for people to get good buys on furniture and cook out, which it is the start of grilling season. But Memorial Day, a lot of people, we used to have a race. I don't know, some people have known us for a long time. We ran the Jim Utley Foundation, which was named after my little brother who passed away. And we raised money for kids to help them stay away from drugs and all that. But we had this big fundraiser every year. It was Memorial Day weekend, and it was a 5K, 10K fun run. It was a lot of fun and brought families together. And so they would come out and they would run. And one time when we very first started it, I wished somebody a happy Memorial Day, and they said, oh, it's not a happy time. Please don't say that. And so ever since then, I've just been really conscious of that. And they're right. It's not a happy time. It's supposed to be a remembrance time. Just kind of maybe keep that in mind going forward, that there's a lot of people who have lost, military family members and good friends over the years, and that's really what it's about, is paying tribute to those heroes.
Mom, did you ever see that movie Lone Survivor?
I did. That was so good.
So I had never seen it. I watched it on the plane, like one of the planes that I've been on the past month, and with Mark Wahlberg.
Yes.
Oh my God, such a good movie, but really makes you see what our military actually go through. And I think they were in Afghanistan in that movie, but oh my God, it's definitely a good watch around this time of year when you're supposed to be remembering like the sacrifices that military make for us, and what they go through and the lives that are lost,
For sure. Another one I just actually watched the other night, which I hadn't seen before, was 13 Hours. And it was about Benghazi. And
I haven't seen that one.
Oh my gosh. That has your favorite actor from Jack Ryan and The Office. And,
John Krasinski?
Yeah.
I'm in love with him.
I know you're in love with him. He's so good. So I was surprised I hadn't really heard of it before, but he was one of the leads in that film. And it dove into the Benghazi disaster and Americans getting trapped over there and killed over there. And it didn't dive into the lack of response from the White House, which I thought was really interesting. Because that was key to that whole story, and why they didn't get help when they needed help, because there was a CIA operative over there, a situation where they didn't know, a lot of people didn't know that they were over there. And so they were trying to keep it secret, but at the same time, American lives were at stake, and the ambassador and some other people got killed, and it was just really, really horrific. But anyway, so something that I do, that I contribute to, is Tunnels to Towers, which I love their cause. It helps veterans, and it helps first responder families, Gold Star families, all that, who have lost family members and maybe can't afford to pay for their mortgage, have kiddos still, little and in school and at home. So I donate $11 a month. It's a very small, look at it, it's the same price as what the burrito, the Chipotle burrito, it's the same price. Yeah.
Now, it used to be the same price as 2 Chipotle burritos.
Right.
Now it's
one. So I donate to that every month. I just have it automatic. And something that they did for Memorial Day this year was they paid off 36 mortgages of families in need. And then one of their goals is to get 5,000 veterans off the street. So I really love that organization. And talk about Mark Wahlberg. He supports it also, because I know you mentioned him earlier. So, so Memorial Day is all about, remembrance, but it's also the kicking off of grilling season and summer. Presley and
Which is her busiest time of year.
It is the busiest time of year
in the hot dog business.
Yes. So between Memorial Day and Labor Day, Americans eat 7 billion hot dogs, which might make some people go, oh, but
Oh my God.
I know. So
I was going to ask you to say that, because I remember you said it with Pat on the on TV the other day.
Yeah.
And he might have said it. I think he said it, but I couldn't remember what the number was.
Yeah, 7 billion hot dogs. So
that's insane.
It's crazy. And the number one day for hot dog eating, of course, is 4th of July. But
naturally.
Yeah. But summer grilling kicks off with Memorial Day. And I have a few tips. I know I can give a few tips about grilling, about maybe creating a good cookout, especially we just talked about the economy and how, people aren't being able to afford quite what they used to do. So, so my tips, I guess, for the cookout for saving some money would be to go ahead and assign items to people. So if someone asks you, I regularly throw parties and get-togethers, and if someone says,
yes, she does.
I do a lot. I like entertaining. So
she's definitely a hostess.
If someone says, well, can I bring something? My natural reaction has always been in the past, no, I got it. Just come and have fun. But I think now, it's perfectly acceptable too to say, oh my gosh, yeah, that would be great. Could you bring like potato salad or coleslaw? And what I don't like to do is I don't like to say, just bring something to share, because the problem with that is you don't know what's coming. And then you don't know if it's going to jive with the rest of the menu that you're preparing, or if somebody's going to repeat, two people are going to bring the same thing, or if everybody's going to bring those bad store-bought soft cookies.
Yeah.
You know, that
I think I like those, but I think that a good like way to think about it too is that what you're thinking, they're always going to bring the opposite of what you're thinking they're going to bring.
Definitely.
And so I always try to give specific to, like, one thing that I like always let people bring when they ask is ice, especially boys, because boys don't know how to pick out like pretty cookies or anything like that. And so they can't mess up ice. Ice is easy, it's heavy, and I don't want to move it. So whenever my male friends ask what they can bring, it's always bring 3 bags of ice.
Well, and then follow that up with, hey, come 30 to 45 minutes early and ice all the drinks down for me.
Right, that would be so great.
Yeah.
Be so great.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So,
beer too. Boys can bring beer.
Yes.
Boys are good at that.
Yes, and there again, beer and sodas, things like that are heavy. I usually provide the meat and the drinks, at least most of the drinks, maybe not all the beer and all that. You could tell them to bring that. But I usually do those mini cans of soda and the mini waters. And the reason I do those, I like those medium-sized waters. They're not like tiny and they're not huge. But those medium-sized waters, I think they're like, are they 8-ounce waters? I think they're 8-ounce waters. Yeah. But the reason I like...
They sell them in the littler packs. They're not in the huge packs.
Yeah, it might be 12 ounces. But anyway, the reason I do those smaller drinks is because all the time you have a group over, it doesn't matter if it's 6 people or if it's 60, people leave those half-drink cans of soda and half-drink water bottles all over your house. You're constantly going and put, like, whose is this, whose is this, whose is this, and you can't mark them all. So what I do is just the smaller bottles, and people seem to consume those more easily, and then they're more empties.
So, Mom, what's your go-to party drink for the summer? Like, what are you buying to put in the cooler? What are you buying for everybody?
You know, I kind of like to do just a big mix. So, I mean, I'll do, you know, the White Claws and the Trulies and all that kind of stuff, some seltzers and some beer, some light beer. I always like Michelob Ultra. I think most people like that, too. So I put that in there. And then a mixture of sodas, of diets and regular sodas. But I think it's good, too, to come up with a fun, like, signature cocktail, if you would. So, you know, it depends on what your theme is. But you could even do something as simple as, you know, picking up those V8 splashes that are more, they're fruit-based, and they taste like kind of fruit juices. And there's all kind of variety of those. And then you put those with some vodka and just like a little garnish, whether it's a lemon or lime or whatever. And I think those are good for summer.
What do we like to make, Mom, with the Deep Eddy sweet tea vodka and lemonade?
Yeah. So
and maybe some iced tea if you're feeling iced tea.
A little bit of unsweet
that stuff's really good.
Yeah, a little bit of unsweet tea, some Deep Eddy tea vodka, and then some lemonade. Yeah. And you could do low-cal lemonade, too. You don't have to find, like, the, you know, super sweet stuff, but you can buy that light lemonade and do that with it. And garnish with a lemon, and that's a really great summer drink. So
you could always pick up like a jug too of like diet lemonade from Chick-fil-A, because they do that too. But my favorite like canned summer drinks are twisted teas. I love a good twisted tea, which is like the easier way to do what we were just talking about, but without liquor in it.
Yeah. And
I also really like the high noons, but I like the regular ones, but I also like the tequila ones a lot because I'm a tequila girl. And this is like such a I'm underage and I'm buying alcohol drink to buy, so they'll probably card you. But remember the 4th of July red, white, and berry Smirnoff ices?
Yes.
Those are so good, and I get made fun of for buying those, but they're so good.
No, they're so good, and they're obviously in theme too for a summer cookout, especially a 4th of July cookout. But they are hard to find if you try to buy them early, not at the last minute.
Yeah, you got to buy them in June or else they'll be gone.
Yes, so if you see them, pick them up because they're going to be gone closer to 4th of July for sure.
Okay, do we want to move on to like the Trump trial and that kind of thing that we were going to talk about?
Yeah, so I don't know who all's been following that, but the Trump trial for the hush money is now kind of, the closing arguments were today. And it's gone on, I think, for 22 days maybe, the trial. And it's just one of many trials that are facing the former president and the proposed candidate for the Republican Party. But do you know much about that trial, Press?
I haven't been following it a whole bunch, but really because my personal opinion is that he is not the first former president to pay off a, I don't know, sex worker of any kind, and he will not be the last.
Right.
I think that's an ignorant way to look at it, that, oh my gosh, he paid off a sex worker. Like, yeah, not the best thing ever, but I don't know. Well, I can assure you that it's not the worst thing a former president has done. No,
not for sure. And so he's facing charges. The whole thing comes down to that he's made payments of $130,000 to a former porn star or adult entertainer. I mean, they've kind of made her out, Stormy Daniels is her name, and they've made her out to be like the prosecution, to be this mom and good citizen and this and that, and made her, gave her a makeover, of course, and she looks beautiful. But I'm like, okay, she's a porn star, okay? And then their number one witness is Trump's former attorney, and that man has been like perjured himself and lied so many times and been in jail. So I'm like, okay, well, they don't have anybody like that's in the up and up as their witness. I just don't get it, how they're proceeding with this. But
personally, I would need more than $100K.
Well, I think that's what I was thinking too, because like $130,000
$10 for Donald Trump
from a billionaire. What? I mean,
no, you give me $2 million. I'll shut my mouth. Like, I don't know.
It seems a little
That's
fishy.
Probably not a good way to look at it either.
No, I know, but still,
like a low number.
Yeah. So the whole thing comes down to he's accused of 34 counts of falsifying business records, and which I guess would be a misdemeanor normally, but the misdemeanor it's run its course, so he really can't be charged with the misdemeanors anyway. And so now they're trying to say, but because it's tied to a bigger crime, which would be election interference, he tried to cover it up for election purposes, and that's why it's why they're felonies, not misdemeanors. And so
that seems difficult to prove.
Well, it does, because
that's why.
If that were the only time that he had covered up something, then maybe. But he also had other affairs that he paid, had NDAs signed and paid money to.
Well, and I feel like all you have to say is that, no, I covered that up because I'm married.
Well, that's exactly.
I didn't cover it up.
Yeah, that's exactly what they said, that he covered it up. There was plenty of proof saying that he was worried about Melania's response and didn't want to hurt her, didn't want to hurt his family, didn't want to hurt his young son. And then, I have a young kid. I have a beautiful wife. I don't want to jeopardize my family. Right. I feel like that's enough of a excuse. I don't know. And hush money itself, paying somebody off and having them sign a non-disclosure, is not a crime. That happens all the time.
And it's also not uncommon.
No, I know. I'm sure. Can anybody say Bill Clinton? I mean, really? I'm sure that Bill Clinton.
I think you can pick any former major politician has paid someone off.
Yeah.
Or celebrity, honestly.
Yeah.
Like most celebrities have. So I don't know. That charge doesn't bother me as much as other people, but maybe I'm just a cynic.
The crazy thing is that they're going to be the jury's going to be weighing in today. It could come. They could come back with their verdict as early as today. It's doubtful.
Oh, today. They're thinking today?
Some people are predicting it's going to be quick and they're going to come back today. I don't think it's going to be that fast.
No.
There's also a couple of attorneys.
How do they find a jury that's impartial towards Donald Trump?
I know.
I
think the bigger issue, though, is the judge. So they have a couple attorneys on the jury, which is super unusual.
Is that allowed?
It is, but it's just not common because usually those types of people are excluded in the jury selection process. So for some reason
they want regular people.
Yeah, for some reason they were kept. I think that's almost a good thing for Donald Trump. actually, because
it totally is.
Yeah.
Because it's people that know the law, and so they figure that the people that know the law will be partial to making a decision based on the law and not on their political opinion.
Right. But I also can't believe that this judge hasn't recused himself, because he's a Manhattan Supreme Court justice. His name's Juan Merchan. And he actually oversaw the tax fraud trial against Trump and the organization last year. And then his supposedly his daughter contributes heavily to the Democratic Party and has some involvement with that. So I don't know why that all's even allowed.
Yeah. Like I said, though, I think it's tough to find anyone that doesn't have a strong opinion, especially New York Superior. Like, hard to find a judge that doesn't have a history with Trump or his organizations, you know?
Well, which is why the venue should have been changed, you know?
Yeah.
But
yeah,
we'll see how it all plays out. I guess we'll know soon his fate, and then he'll appeal, of course, which will take probably years to appeal.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, you said he had a huge crowd at his Bronx rally, right?
He did. So I think that Biden administration and his re-election campaign are actually a little worried, because he had really great crowds at not only the Bronx but at other New York rallies. And because he's so smart, I mean, he really is a brilliant guy in a lot of ways. You like him or not like him, the fact that he is going to court all day and then he's doing rallies at night. I mean, when does the man sleep?
He's a machine.
He is a machine.
He didn't sleep when he was president, though.
No,
I remember that, like them saying he went to bed at like 3 and we get up at like 5:30.
Oh yeah, there was some picture that that the Democratic Party put out of him saying, "Look at how haggard he looks. He's old and this and that." And I was like, "Oh, good God!" They took the picture. It was so out of context. He was getting off of the helicopter, and he had been
Marine one.
Yeah, and he flew somewhere all night long and did like he was out of the country and coming home. He didn't get in till like 2 or 3 in the morning, and that was a picture of him getting off the helicopter and walking towards the White House with his tie undone and kind of loose.
Well, they got their karma for calling him old, because now they can't get a picture of Joe Biden where he looks relatively young.
Oh my gosh. I know. That's crazy.
It's so crazy. Well, I mean, yeah, I understand what you're saying about New York, though, because I have a good friend in New York who's a lifelong Democrat, and she texted me the other day and was like, "I just saw Joe Biden's motorcade and I booed him."
Oh my gosh. Yeah, well, you know,
made me laugh.
Who would have thought that all these people in the Bronx would be screaming 4 more years and Trump, 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 and you know.
Yeah, well, Liv has not gone that far. She just doesn't like Biden. But that's where I think the issue, honestly, is going to be, is that a lot of New Yorkers don't particularly like Trump, but they hate Joe Biden.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I don't know. That might be a problem, because even like the poll that I was looking at, like the Siena College poll, that they partner with the New York Times a lot and the Post and stuff, and do stories with them. But the Post like reported on how Trump was doing well in New York, and it's like better than he was doing 4 years ago or 8 years ago or 6 years ago. Sorry. But yeah, no, it showed him as being like overall with all New Yorkers, both parties, as 38% favorable, which like sounds low, but Kathy Hochul, who's the governor, was only 39% favorable, and Joe Biden was only 45% favorable. So it's like not that off, you know?
Yeah. Well,
the difference is that like most people know how they feel about Donald Trump. Like only 6% didn't know, versus like 5% didn't know about Joe Biden, but like there's like 15% that don't know about Kathy Hochul or Chuck Schumer or something like that, because they're not as controversial politicians, you know?
Oh, Kathy Hochul. She pains me. She She does. When you don't think things can get worse, then you have Kathy Hochul. I'm like, anyway, they did also have Robert De Niro out yesterday.
I saw that.
That was so weird. I can't even go there. It's just strange He hates Trump with such passion, and then he does a press conference like in front of the courthouse or something, saying, "Oh my gosh, if you don't vote for Biden and you vote for Trump, he's not only going to ruin the state of New York. If he gets off, he's going to ruin the state of New York, and then if he's get elected, he's going to ruin the country, and then ultimately the world." And I'm like, oh my gosh.
Oh my God, that's so doomsday. Like,
it was.
Anytime anyone's like, this president is going to send us into the apocalypse, I'm like, I don't care what party you're from. That sounds dumb. Like, we have too many facets in place for one person to like fully destroy the world.
No doubt.
I don't know.
Well, and I don't think
that's a crazy take for anybody.
It is, but I think De Niro's crazy himself. So I mean,
he is.
He's
but
old.
He's
and crazy.
also old. Old people are weird.
Yeah, old people are weird.
They are. They get weird.
We get weird.
Yes. And when you're that age, nobody's changing your mind. Your opinions get more aggressive than they used to be. And I don't know.
Well, so, I always said,
grain of salt.
I always said that your personality is your personality, and then when you age, it is all magnified. You know, so whatever.
Totally.
Yeah, so if you were cheap, you become super cheap when you're old.
Right, then you're counting pennies.
Yeah, and then you also have no filter, which is hilarious.
No filter. Anyway. I'm worried for you when you get old, because you already don't really have a filter, and neither do I.
Yeah.
So like 80-year-old Becky's gonna be like, well, they're just an idiot. I'm gonna go, oh my God, we're in public.
Well, I kind of say that now.
No, I know.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be louder and more present.
Right.
And Jean's not gonna know anyone's name.
No. I mean, I had to finally move from Azure Lane because he couldn't pronounce the name of our street for 5 years.
I like when he brings up people that I maybe went to second grade with.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'll say a name, and then he like says, oh, this person? I'm like, no, they were my third grade class, Jean. That's the only reason you would know them.
You're like Jacob, and he goes, oh, Jacob Delaney?
Yeah, and you're like, I don't even know how you remembered that name. My favorite is when I say Allie about one of my friends that I've known, like, been friends with for 6 years now,
right,
since the end of high school. And then he pulls out a name from like middle school, and I'm like, Dad, no, it's the Allie that's over here, like
all the time,
every couple months.
Yeah, but my dad was like that too. I don't know if it's a Virgo thing or a man thing or what, but
it must be.
Yeah,
I'll have to ask JJ if it's a Virgo thing.
My best friend's name was Mary Lane growing up, and he called her everything but Mary Lane. It was Mary Ellen, Mary Jane. Is Mary Jane coming today? And I'm like, it's not Mary Jane.
Mary Jane.
It's Mary Lane.
Oh my God. Well, Dad, at least Jean gets all my best friends. He does try. I have a lot of friends though, so can't keep track. But
so do we want
to talk about where do we want to go now?
Yeah,
we have a couple more things.
I know
left.
we only have a couple more minutes, so maybe talk about the speech at Benedictine College.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I watched it this morning. Actually, I watched the full thing, and I'd seen about 50% of it on TikTok and other social media platforms by now, but most of you have already seen it because it's kind of old news now. But we were supposed to talk about this last week, but we had to move our podcast, so we're gonna just go over this briefly. But Harrison Butker, the kicker for Kansas City Chiefs, spoke at Benedictine College, which is a Catholic college.
It's a Catholic
in Kansas?
liberal arts.
Yeah,
small.
In Kansas. Small school, and he's very Catholic, so that was why they asked him, even though it wasn't his alma mater or anything. But it's been all over social media because of how he spoke about women in the speech. About basically the gist of what he said in that clip that everybody's clipping is that like women's greatest vocation in life is to be a wife and a mother, which I didn't love, but that's, what I got from the entire speech, because I think a lot of it was taken out of the context of the fact that he's very Catholic.
Yes.
And very traditionally Catholic.
Mm-hmm.
Because he talked a lot about his own vocation as like a husband and a father too, which I didn't see any of on social media.
Right. Which is also why I wanted you to see the whole thing and listen to the whole thing.
No, I was going to watch the whole thing before I said anything about it. But I still agree that I didn't like that he was like, oh yeah, like my wife didn't have a career and her life didn't start until she was married and had kids. That reminds me of, you know how I always say that I hate when people call other people their other half?
Yes.
Because I think that everybody's a whole person and you don't need somebody to complete you.
Mm-hmm.
But that's how that felt to me. I don't think the Taylor Swift comment where he called her like his teammate's girlfriend was meant in a misogynistic way. I think it was supposed to be kind of cheeky.
Yeah, I think it was part that, but I also think it might have been like she's gotten, obviously she gets so much attention that I think he was also trying to distract a little bit from that, from who she is.
Well, yeah.
You know?
Like
privacy
he definitely mentioned it. He definitely mentioned it like that because he wanted it to be like, oh, haha, like,
yeah,
obviously it's Taylor Swift.
Right. Everybody knows that.
But everybody knows Taylor Swift,
yeah.
and like everybody knows that line. Like, I wasn't bothered by that, even though like all of the like diehard Taylor Swift people are like fuming over that, because like, I don't think it wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't said like right next to the other thing.
Right.
But I don't think it's appropriate to talk politics right off the bat, no matter which side you are, at a graduation.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's crazy. I think it should be focused on the accomplishment and what you can do with your life and your degree, that kind of thing, which he got into a little bit. But even though I agree about some of the stuff he said about Joe Biden, I'm like, that's just not the setting for it.
No, and
because I would be upset if it was the other way at my graduation, and I'd be like, why are you focusing on that? That has nothing to do with what we're talking about.
Yeah. No, I thought that I actually. I mean, it's freedom of speech, right? And the college obviously knew what he was going to speak about. They probably had to pre-approve his speech, so they were probably on board with it, most likely.
Well, it's a very traditional school, and Catholic. Honestly, most of his criticism was towards the Catholic Church, and Lord knows that everybody probably has criticism towards the Catholic Church, but most people is not that it's too liberal, which is basically what he was saying.
Yeah. But I didn't like his comments about how women should only aspire to be mothers and wives.
No.
I thought that was crazy. Because it is crazy because you're at a college graduation. So these are women in the audience. It was probably split somewhat 50-50. And these are women who have worked hard the last 4 years or whatever to get their degrees. And then it just seemed like it was very dismissive of their efforts and of their degree and their accomplishments. And I don't think that was the right approach for that. I think he could have mentioned motherhood and his wife's situation or her role in a different way that would have been appropriate.
Well, if I believed what he believed, which I don't, I would kind of phrase it like, my greatest calling and her greatest calling have been to be parents and to be a spouse. And that's my, that's where I feel most fulfilled. And I know my wife feels the same way.
Yes.
And the job of a homemaker is just as important as the job of me as the provider. I think that would make more sense than him saying that, like you said, that women have been drastically lied to, that professional success will fulfill them.
Yeah.
I don't know. I thought that was crazy, because it kind of goes to also what you've always told me, which is when we see like people's husbands leave them, which we've seen several times, like in a personal setting for a lot of people we know,
right?
That when you don't have a career or don't have your own assets and things, then you kind of are left in a bind because you relied on your partner.
Well, that's exactly what I was just going to bring up. The fact that, we value education so much. And what I've tried to instill in you and a lot of your friends too, is with education comes money. With money comes choices. And
choices and access. Yeah.
Choices. You're going to have more choices if you're educated. You're going to have more money and income if you're educated. And you won't be stuck in a predicament. And yes, I would never want you to depend on anybody else for your livelihood. I want you to feel confident that you can make your own way.
Yeah, well, I disagreed with probably 98% of what he said, but it didn't leave me as heated as I felt about it when you just see the clip out of context, because you realize that, oh wow, he's really just like an evangelical kind of person.
Absolutely.
He's very religiously oriented.
Yes.
And he's entitled to that opinion, even though I don't think it's correct, and I don't think that God wants that necessarily, but you're entitled to your own opinion, you're entitled to your own religion. I however would hate it if my husband talked about me like my life didn't start until I got married to him.
Yeah, I know there were a few people, more than a few people, that actually walked out on that speech. I believe that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can definitely see that.
But Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes both came out and basically said that they disagreed with almost everything he said,
right,
but that they think he's a good person,
mm-hmm.
and they can only kind of speak about him in the context of which they know him, which is as a good person. And I'm like, after watching the whole speech, that's kind of where I think, I'm like, you know what, he may be what I think is delusional in terms of religion, but and in terms of traditional values, but he doesn't seem like a terrible person.
Didn't you say that his mom is like a physicist or something?
Yeah, that's what I like heard on social media and stuff, and I'm like, I don't know how you think that women shouldn't have careers when your mom is literally a doctor. Like,
wow. Yeah.
I don't know.
Wow.
Crazy.
Yeah. Wonder what she thinks of that speech.
Well, I do too. I would love to hear her reaction.
Well, actually, I thought your speech, the valedictorian speech at commencement speech at USC, a year and a half ago, whatever it was so weird.
Oh, the valedictorian speech?
Yes.
Was so weird.
So the guy, do you remember, like, he chose not to do a traditional speech, and he said,
oh, I remember.
I wrote a poem about my cat. And
no, it wasn't about his cat. It was about a cat trapped in Kiev.
Yeah.
Ukraine.
Yeah.
And it was a political thing.
Yeah, it was.
About like supporting Ukraine. Yeah. But it was so bizarre.
I thought it was his cat.
With
that shows you how much I paid attention. Cat. I knew it was a cat.
Well, Becky, I had already been drinking with Amy since 7 a.m. when she got me up. That was one of my roommates. I lived with 10 roommates, and we all like have mimosas and we're drinking tequila and stuff on graduation morning. And we had 3 drinks, and it was 8:30 in the morning. And then he started talking about a cat, and Amy looked at me and was like, what the hell is he saying? And I'm like, I have no idea.
Everybody was thinking that. All the parents are looking at each other like, what? And of course, the invocation right before that, which you're thinking is from the theology group, and it's going to be, a prayer or something. And that was like something about the particles of the cosmos. And then you have a poem about a cat.
Best part.
Oh my gosh.
That was the best part, was because it was like the dean of religious life at the school. And obviously, like, it's not a religious school, so they try to include everybody, and which I get and I like. And instead of like just doing a general prayer, like thanking God and the universe for this moment, it was like, you're all cosmic beings floating through time and space, and you're like, what does that mean?
No, it just,
that mean?
The whole thing was so strange. I can't even go there.
It was so LA weird.
It was so LA weird. And then the topper was that and now I like the person who spoke, so I'm not going to discount her. But you had
Allison Felix?
Yes. But you had Ron Howard getting an honorary doctorate degree, sitting right there, and it's Hollywood, it's LA, and it's like, that would have been so much more appropriate, I think.
Well, right. And like Allison Felix is an Olympian, like a great choice.
She's great.
Also, great, Olympic winner. But they could have said, hey, we're going to use you next year because we have Ron Howard this year that's getting a honorary doctorate.
Absolutely.
And she would have been like, totally fine. That's great. But I liked the girl that did mine. I think her name was Rachel Scott.
Yeah.
I liked her. She was a news anchor in DC.
Yes.
I think the DC area, but my Annenberg specific one. But I really liked her. I actually saw her pop up on TikTok a couple days ago.
I thought she did a really great job.
And that's what I mean by like that commencement speeches should focus on like individual success and like your accomplishment and what you can do in the world with that accomplishment. And she did a really good job with that.
Totally. So
okay, do we want to wrap it up with some TV shows that we're liking?
Yeah, let's talk
something lighter
briefly about TV shows that maybe some of them that are wrapping up into, and some that we're waiting on. So
well, I know I just binge watched 4 episodes. Isn't that much of a binge watch, but I watched it in one day of Bridgerton season 3 part 1. I know, Becky, you don't watch Bridgerton. You should. It's great. But it was really good. It was really good, and they definitely lived up to the build-up that they created for Colin and Penelope that has been going on since season 1. But the second half of that season comes out July 15th. Netflix knew that we were all excited for it, so they split it up into 2 parts.
All right, so maybe I'll have to dive into that one. I know that Jean...
I'm not watching it with you, but it's good.
Okay, well, I'll catch up to you. How about that? Okay. I know Jean and I recently watched The Bear, which I thought was super cool. And
I still haven't watched the second season, but I loved the first season.
Yeah, so that's a show about a chef who's got some Chicago connections, is in Chicago.
Yeah.
His brother passes away and leaves him this restaurant. It's really kind of like a hole-in-the-wall restaurant, and the restaurant is Italian beefs and hot dog kind of restaurant, which I grew up in Chicago. My husband grew up in Chicago. We love that city, and Italian beefs. All the different references in that show really hit home. But even if
it's so Chicago.
Even if you're not from Chicago, you'll love it. It's really creative and quirky and
well written.
It's very fast paced.
Sets are great.
Very fast paced. And I noticed like more fast paced than the normal show. So I think that the reason that the episodes initially are short are because of that fact.
Mm-hmm. So it's really dense.
Yeah.
It reminds me of Succession.
Definitely.
In that way.
Yeah.
Where you like can only really take in one episode at a time.
Yes. You have to really pay attention.
The lead is Jeremy Allen White, which for those of you who watch Shameless, like I did and love Shameless, it's Lift from Shameless. So he's forever a Chicago guy, even though he's not from Chicago, because like those two shows are so Chicago. But yeah, no, that's really good. My cousin Madison actually works on The Bear on season 3 right now.
Yep.
She's working in costuming and production. Looks like she's having a blast. I told her to set me up with Jeremy Allen White, but unfortunately he's taken. So,
and then you've got SEAL Team, which is in its final episode. Since we mentioned that Madison works on that show, our really good friend Michaeline works on SEAL Team and has for several years, and that's wrapping up, I guess, with its final season soon. Yeah. So she's working on that now.
And our producer Andrew we were just chatting about SWAT, which is one of my shows that my friend Leslie showed me that I really like, with Shamar Moore from Criminal Minds. And they were supposed to get 1 more season. Now they're getting 2 more seasons. So waiting on season 7, and they're producing season 8, I guess, and that will be the final season instead. But there's a couple of shows that I feel like I've been waiting forever for their final season, and it's because of the strikes. But Stranger Things, Mom, do you remember we watched that?
Yes.
And they're still making season 5, which hopefully will be in 2025, is what they said. Like,
well,
please,
two shows that I felt like were kind of teenage and young adult oriented, but for some odd reason I loved them, was Stranger Things, and then also Outer Banks. And
those are both great.
Yeah, and Outer Banks is supposed to be out this summer with their next season.
Yeah. Good. I love that show. That's a really good show. And I'm surprised you actually like that one too, but I get it. They're teen oriented, young adult oriented, but they're both really good, really, really well written, really quick shows.
Well written, and they end on, on those climax points where you want to watch the next episode. So I like that.
Right.
And then
and Handmaid's Tale.
I was just going to bring that up.
I got to know what happened.
Oh my gosh. So Handmaid's Tale, its final season is season 6, and it's coming out, but I just read it's not coming out till 2025. And I'm like,
I know.
Holy cow.
It's not coming out till next year.
I know, but like I'm going to have to rewatch like part of the stuff leading up to it for sure. Maybe that's what they're counting on, is people rewatching and then tuning in.
A bit.
What's that?
Yep. I'm going to rewatch all of it.
Yeah.
I don't remember even like I remember what happened at the beginning, but I don't remember what happened like last season or the season before that.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I actually like the episodes, the earlier episodes better than the later ones, but I think that comes down to who the producer is for each show, and the producers changed. So anyway.
I got to see it through, though. I got to know the end. And I know they're not, season 3 Euphoria, we're never getting it. For those of you who watched Euphoria, they delayed it indefinitely because they waited too long.
Yeah.
And now Zendaya's like booked and busy, and so is Jacob Elordi. You remember him from Saltburn?
Yes.
The tall, really good looking guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm like, they're now major movie stars. Like, they're not going back to film this HBO TV show.
Right.
And Sydney Sweeney from that movie Immaculate that we saw him on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, they're all busy. So we're never going to know what happens with Rue and the $10,000 worth of drugs she owes that dealer. So it's just going to end on that.
And then the last one is Yellowstone, which I love.
Yeah.
But that's kind of, some of these shows are taking so long in between that people lose interest,
Yeah. They need to start cranking them out faster.
Yeah.
But.
Well, I think that's really all we have for today. I know we went over time somewhat. So we're going to have another episode next week since we missed last week with traveling. And we appreciate everybody watching today or listening today, whatever you're doing. And you can find us on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts, and some other platforms as well. This has been The Casual Critics, and this is our Baker take on things. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Bye.